Okay guys, I'm back from the gas station. You guys may or not have elapsed 365 days while I was gone. Oh god damn it. Hey guys, it's Bronze, and welcome back to the 2023 edition of the annual New Year's retrospective vlog video thing that I do. Once again, this isn't really like a formal thing. I honestly forget that I have to do it until like a week before I record it, so here we are, and this edition of it will be kind of special, I guess, because hopefully this video will be uploaded on January 4th, which will mean that today will be the 10-year anniversary of the Bronze Show YouTube channel. That's right, all the way back in 2014, at the ripe old age of 11 years old, with full knowledge, supervision, and permission from my parent and or legal guardian, please don't kill me, I created this YouTube channel, which has led us to where we are today. I don't even think that when I started my channel, it was even like a possibility in my mind to imagine continuing it into 2024. But back then, I don't know if my opinion on spans of time really mattered. To me, 2016 was way into the future. But yeah, it's the 10-year anniversary. I probably should have something planned for it, but I really didn't. In truth, I kind of panicked thinking about some like big blowout idea I could do for it, but instead I procrastinated until I had to record this video when I announced that I'll be doing a Q&A at some point, probably at the end. But for now, let's go back to what this video is actually about. So, for those unaware, this is an annual thing that I do where I look back at all the stuff that I uploaded in 2023 and talk a little bit about the things that I have planned for the upcoming year. And to start talking about what I did last year, I felt it appropriate to talk about the things that I said I was going to do in the 2022 New Year's video, because basically all of what I said that I would do, I did not do. First off, I said that I had a couple neat ideas for live streams, and in general I was going to try and stream a lot more often in 2023, which, no. Yeah, I did have a couple cool ideas, and I had like a half-scheduled thing where every video I was going to do a stream a couple days after to talk about it. But yeah, that kind of fell through, and also I realized a lot of the ideas that I had either were too big in scope for what I was really able to accomplish, or they were things that really didn't need to be live, you know? But yeah, I will try and live stream a bit more in 2024, but like, you can't really trust that. That's just the first lie that I'm telling you. There's like 4 more. Another thing I said was that I would make more videos in line with the In the Airplane Over the Sea review, those like Scott the Woz-esque album videos. And yeah, I never really got around to doing more of those. There were a couple ideas, a couple of albums that I thought I was going to do videos on, and at least one was in the writing stage, but all of those never really came to fruition. I guess the thing that I had with it was I expected the In the Airplane Over the Sea video to just be a one-off experiment, essentially. So I thought it would be weird to turn that into a series and essentially just have half of my channel be jacking someone else's style, when I could easily make videos about albums just in the way that I would. And rest assured, I have some videos in the works that are just about albums. Some of them I was going to turn into that series, but I ended up not doing. Although I know you guys did like that one, so I'll maybe eventually do a second one of those, but once again, no promises. Another thing that wasn't like a solid thing I said I would do, but I vaguely said in the New Year's video last year that I had some unnamed longer video in the works. That video also fell through, mostly because the scope was way too big, and I felt like the overarching point it was trying to make was kind of muddied by the fact that there was this big amount of work that needed to be put into it, even though a lot of the stories really don't connect to each other in any way. It generally just fell through, but the idea that I have is I'm gonna take the best bit from the bigger story that I was going to tell and make it its own video. I might also do that with other sections of it, but I feel like that's the best compromise for getting this story out, but not in the manner that I said that I would. I don't know how you guys trust me to be like accurate at all. I can't even tell you what I'm thinking. One of the things that I didn't get wrong in last year's New Year's video is that I would start leaning into more occasional long-form content, which, oh boy, did I ever. I think we'll get to that when we get to it, but for now, let's actually start looking through the videos that I uploaded in 2023. My plan for what the first video of 2023 would be was originally the Last Goodnight video, but that ended up taking up a lot more work to do than I had anticipated, but Fortunately, in the interim, I just, like, stumbled upon a story that I found interesting. This is fortunately something that happens a lot. I don't know what, like, the medical term for being addicted to Googling things would be, but whatever that is, I have it. And that specific rabbit hole turned into the SpongeBob darts video, and you know, in the last two New Year's videos, I sort of said things along the lines of, those years were really where I found my niche, where I started making the content that I was really comfortable creating. And this year was a similar thing, because 2023 was the year that I lost my mind. That meaning that basically I could make a video on any topic that interested me. I sort of had that philosophy in 2021 and 2022, but 2023 was the year that I really drilled that point home. Because if I described what I thought my niche was in the last 2 years, you would never expect a video on a obscure SpongeBob mobile game or a possibly fake Guinness World Record by some obscure comedian. And I'm not saying that as a negative. Arguably those videos are the ones that I have the most fun researching. They're sort of the spiritual successors to the traditional internet history videos that I used to make before I fell face first into making music content. And something I forgot to mention is that when we talk about these videos, I'm going to be giving an update to the story in case anything important or interesting happens after I upload my video. The SpongeBob darts video doesn't really have a story or even a point per se, but things did happen. Mainly that, for some background, one of the reasons I was inspired to showcase my findings of the SpongeBob darts rabbit hole was that I was surprised that the game had basically zero internet presence. Specifically that there were no, like, clips or playthroughs of the game on YouTube. But after I uploaded my video and made the ROM for the game freely open to the public, it did kind of fix that problem. From what I can tell, there are now 2 playthroughs of SpongeBob SquarePants darts on YouTube since the release of my video, which is just kinda cool. Despite the growth that I've had over 2023, I'm still a relatively small channel, so it's interesting to see what impact that I can have on the topics that I talk about, even in the smallest of ways. And fortunately, the ROM site that I stole the game from has not sued me yet, so that's all the updates I have for that story. Well then, of course, as I was making the SpongeBob darts video, I was still working on the video on The Last Good Night, which I would eventually upload on Valentine's Day, 2023. Like I said, in the video, I began working on it because I sort of knew that The Last Good Night were the kind of band that were so obscure and not really noteworthy that they really wouldn't get any centralized documentation about them. Despite how much I was able to dig up about this band's history, they just were not notable enough for anyone to do that. Which, now that I mention it, is kind of an overarching theme throughout a lot of the videos that I'm uploading. Something that I have noticed is that I'm really obsessed with mediocrity and obscurity. Like, you can talk for days on end about amazing successes or amazing dumpster fires, and rest assured, the videos that I have uploaded and will upload are also about those. But as you know, I've sort of been strict on not making videos on topics that other people already talk about a lot. And so things like The Last Good Night that are completely forgettable despite how popular they were in general culture ironically makes me really fascinated by them. In terms of updates to The Last Good Night story, there really isn't a lot, because again, they faded into obscurity so fast. One thing I feel that is important to mention is that, you know, in the video I complained a lot about how I wasn't able to get my hands on Curtis John's EP because I had to buy the physical CD or whatever. Well, I caved. Yes, I do actually have Curtis John's independently released EP, and I've uploaded the tracks to the Internet Archive. I've listened to them, and they're about the same level of quality as the rest of The Last Good Night stuff. Like, yeah, you can really tell this is an independent release. Look at how thin that is. Oh shit. Also, unrelated to that, but I'm not going to talk about YouTube Shorts because those don't really have stories behind them, but since we're on the topic of things I bought for videos, I also want to showcase this. I did in fact import a bottle opener from Italy solely because I thought it was funny that this was given away by Sony for a PlayStation contest. As I say, numerous times. I should not be trusted with money. But anyways, there's actually one more update to the Last Goodnight story that I should probably mention, which is that The Last Goodnight actually came back on December 1st of this year with a new single titled Damn These Walls. I listened to it and it's fine. One thing that's kind of a concession you have to make with video topics this obscure is that there isn't really gonna be a built-in audience for something like The Last Goodnight. And I don't want to be that guy, but the band did show how many streams the song got after a week, and yeah, let's say The Last Goodnight fandom is sort of on its last legs. Which is fine. If The Last Goodnight has one fan, then I'm one of them, and if they have no fans, I've died. So after the Last Goodnight video, I was once again kind of stumped for ideas on what the next project should be, but fortunately, as my luck, I got recommended a TikTok video from some comedian that I vaguely remember. It was apparently a news piece about how he holds a Guinness World Record for the most jokes told in 1 hour, and you know, Guinness, their reputation has taken a bit of a hit in recent memory, so like, I should probably check just to see if that's legit. And that spiral of madness eventually turned into my video on the most jokes in an hour world record. Like I said, these kinds of videos are ones I have a lot of fun making. The ones where it isn't really like a story I'm trying to tell, but more documenting me looking into a topic and either showcasing the fruits of my labor or highlighting some unanswered questions that I felt you guys would find interesting. Once again, this isn't really a story, but there are some things I do want to mention. First off, if you follow me on Twitter, then you'll see that I uploaded a clip from a podcast Geechee was a guest on where he talks about his world record, and it doesn't bring any new information, but it sort of confirms a lot of things that I was speculating about in my video.
What do you hold the world record for within comedy?
I told 676 jokes in 1 hour.
How do you know you haven't told the same joke when you're telling that many jokes? Like,
Well, you don't really. I mean, technically, well, I mean, there weren't a lot of rules. I mean, I didn't have to use my own jokes. I didn't have to do them from my brain.
wait,
I could have written down.
Did you use your own jokes?
Well, you know what I did is not really. What it was during a 24-hour marathon at the Improv in L.A. in 1993 for the flood victims that summer in Iowa, and they thought that the 24-hour marathon was going to be some sort of a record, and turns out they weren't even close. So they said, well, what are we going to do? And somebody said, do you know anybody who can tell 583 jokes in an hour? And Bud Friedman called me and said, you want to try it? And I said, sure, I'll try it. So like I said, it was mostly just for fun, and but we got it, and we got a little plaque from it. But then I tried calling Guinness a few years ago to kind of update it, because they had posted that someone else had the record with like less jokes than I had told. So, and then they just said, well, we don't blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, I'm going to keep using it because I know I did it.
It's kind of disappointing I didn't find that clip earlier, but what are you gonna do? And probably the most important update to the story is that on September 7th of this year, Geechee Guy actually passed away. There isn't really a way I can talk about that, relating it to my video without it seeming tacky, so I'll just say that despite the questions that I raised in my video, I thought that he was a talented comedian and he seemed like a nice person, so that's all I really gotta say, rest in peace. So after that video, I then uploaded my video on the Gorillaz Dare rumor. So in truth, I'm not really crazy for Gorillaz. I thought Demon Days was a pretty good album, if a bit overhyped, but I do respect the album enough to understand the impact that it had, since I'm still a 2000s rock kind of guy. And I had obviously heard about this thing with Dare for a long time, and I've tried to look into it a couple of times, but making this video was the first time I really took looking into the story seriously. And honestly, looking into the stories of these songs, it really did make me appreciate the album a lot more than I already did. There aren't really any updates to the story, and honestly there wasn't a lot to talk about. It's sort of self-explanatory, just me making my case for why this rumor isn't as accurate as its widespread use would make it seem. And it's convenient that there wasn't a lot to talk about that one, because we need all the time that we can get to talk about the last 3 videos I uploaded this year, which I affectionately call the trifecta of rage, because the last 3 videos I uploaded this year were feature-length dissections into controversial things, whether it be political rock scandals, or my dumb opinions. The first of which was my video on Pat Finnerty's series What Makes This Song Stink. Like I said in that video, and unlike what the comments would have you believe, I was and still am a fan of Pat Finnerty's content, but I always sort of saw the Kryptonite video as the black sheep of his channel, and in general, I started noticing a couple problems he occasionally dipped into that I was surprised that no one else had mentioned before, so I felt that I not should be the one to bring them up because that makes me sound more important than it really is. I'm critiquing a YouTube series, I'm not exposing Pat for money laundering. The video got a really negative reception, mostly because Pat's fans are the kinds of people who sort of blindly dismiss anything critiquing content that they enjoy. Although looking back at it, a couple of the points that I did make were a bit too pedantic, like reading too deep into off-the-cuff comments that Pat made, or pointing out irony as a serious point, things like that. But still, overall, I felt like the point that I made about Pat's content and his presentation style is still solid, and some of the things that Pat did in the Kryptonite video are still indefensible. But try as they may, I got a lot of comments defending quote-unquote Pat's video. Fun fact, this is actually the second time I tried to record the New Year's video. The first time I rambled angrily way too long at the comment section of this video. It's the only comment section that I allow myself to actively argue with people who post in there, and that's probably not the best idea, but it's fun and it's the internet, so unhealthy behavior, that's fine. But to be brief, a lot of the comments are just the standard ways that internet users dismiss people critiquing things that they enjoy. Some of the recurring things specifically about Pat's content are things that I feel I should address, like the idea that you shouldn't be analyzing his content because it's all supposed to be jokes, which no. Pat's making observational comedy, which is inherently trying to say something about the thing it's making fun of. You don't make fun of the pop song chords for being overused without trying to make some sort of point about how they're overused, you know? You don't make fun of Kryptonite for having a wimpy yell into the final chorus without saying something about how that wimpy yell adds to the song being bad. Another thing a lot of people said was that I was missing the point of Pat's videos, that it wasn't meant to be an actual critique of the songs. It was supposed to be satire of other music YouTubers like Rick Beato, which, again, no. If Pat wanted to make a satire of YouTube music analysis, then he would be trying to say something about YouTubers like that by doing some sort of cartoonishly absurd version of what they do. All Pat does to make fun of music YouTube is make some off-the-cuff references to Rick Beato occasionally. That's not satire, that's irreverence. And even if Pat's series is just failed satire, he's still saying reasons why he thinks the song he's talking about is bad, so that doesn't even dismiss the thing it's trying to. But anyways, so yeah, the reception to that video was a lot more overwhelmingly negative than I expected, even though I expected to get some pushback from Pat's fans. And then after the Patfinity video, I decided to take a break for a couple of months to really hunker down to put the finishing touches on my next behemoth of a project, which, as you all know, turned into my almost 2-hour documentary on the band Trapt. I had been working off and on this video for 6 months, 3 of which was dedicated to writing and researching the thing, so it's safe to say that the Trapt video is the thing that I've put the most effort into ever in my life. I've put more work into the Trapt video than most of my friendships. Like being beside the online music community, I had heard whisperings of Trapt every so often, and I had the vague idea that their lead singer turned to be right-wing and got suspended from all their platforms. But man, after making that video, I had no idea. I could definitely see why people were fascinated by the story by the end of that. Speaking of which, there isn't a lot to talk about in terms of the video, but for the update section, oh boy. Do you think that Chris Taylor Brown was just going to sit down and shut up after I released my video documenting everything he's ever done? No, and he had the opportunity to, because a certain official band YouTube channel commented on my video. He very clearly did not watch it, he just saw how long it was and called me gay, but still. But anyways, in terms of Chris Taylor Brown happenings that occurred after my video, the biggest of which was his escapades on TikTok. For some reason in late October, he began to try and do his semi-ironic bit of defending female pedophiles again, which caused another wave of controversy for him over there. And this time was kind of worse because it only barely seemed like a joke. And after like 2 days of him trying to do this, he eventually got suspended from the platform, which is, I think, the 4th account that he's gotten deleted off the platform. And then on his new 5th TikTok account, he was saying things about how he was gonna make an antitrust lawsuit against TikTok and Facebook and Twitter for suspending him. A lawsuit that he has been threatening these platforms for like 3 years. And you know, despite the point of my videos being to draw attention to the things I'm talking about, I don't actually like to interact with the topics of my videos too often. But it is Chris Taylor Brown. So admittedly, I did start poking at him in his comment section, and unlike everyone else making fun of him over there, I was obsessed with this man. I had receipts. Suspiciously, he would respond to every other person antagonizing him, but never me, until, inevitably, he blocked me. I usually make fun of stupid people who go, "Ooh, you blocked me on social media, that means that I win," but he blocked me on social media, that means I win. But besides things that only really pertain to me, there obviously aren't too many things going on in the Trapped story. The biggest thing that's impacted them is that their Facebook page got hacked a couple of times, but that's not really too big. So instead I'm gonna leave you with a funny video that Chris uploaded to his now suspended 4th TikTok account about how a music festival was evil for having satanic imagery.
It's extremely concerning that the music industry celebrates hell and Satan and Lucifer so much. You know, I don't do that anymore. Because I know where it comes from. And I think finding out where true evil lurks pushed me to God.
This is all said by the guy who said he was initially influenced to start music by Tool and Metallica, and was briefly signed to Motley Crue's record label. I just can't get enough of this guy. But that's enough Trapped for one day. We can only handle so much. So for those unaware, I am still in fact obsessed with Smash Mouth, and I realized that one of the things that I didn't really touch upon too deeply in my video on them was Greg Camp's belief in Scientology. I sort of threw it in as a one-off joke, but I felt like to do my due diligence, I should probably look into it to see if there's anything else interesting going on there. And that was back in March of this year, which turned out to be perfect timing, because I then discovered the fact that Greg Camp was a part of a new band filled with anti-vaxxers, and it was very clear that they were building their brand around the fact that they were all anti-vaxxers or similarly controversial figures, so I knew that this was a developing story that I needed to start following. And after I finished with the Trapped video, they had started teasing their debut album, so I knew it was a pretty good time to start work on a video about this band. So then, in November, I uploaded my video on The Defiant, the anti-vax punk supergroup. I swear that 2 feature-length political rock scandal videos in a row is not going to become a pattern, although I will definitely make more if I find more, don't worry. The funny thing about the Defiant video is it got sort of the same reaction as the Pat Finnerty video, except instead of like gatekeepy rock fans, it was anti-vaxxers. One of which was someone that I didn't really expect to hear from, which was Johnny Rio from The Defiant. The actual flesh and blood man from the band that I was talking about made a comment on my video. He very clearly didn't watch it, which again, I didn't expect him to, but I also didn't expect him to comment on it if he didn't watch it. And Johnny Rio commenting happened on the same day that Chris Taylor Brown commented on the Trapped video, so that was a really surreal moment for me. And with that, those are all the videos that I uploaded in 2023. I will say, much like with all the other New Year's videos, I'm really proud of all the stuff that I uploaded this year. There isn't really any video that I could look back on and say that I was disappointed by how it turned out. It all really came through really well. In terms of like general happenings for the channel this year, there isn't as much as last year, although we did essentially double in subscriber count since the last time, which is pretty cool. Knowing that my channel is still growing, slowly but still sort of exponentially, is a really cool feeling. But that's enough of me sucking my own dick. Let's see what loads I'm gonna make you guys swallow in 2024. God, why did I say that? Firstly, we have the stuff that I said before. I'm gonna try to stream more often and stuff like that. In terms of definitive plans, I do have a couple of scripts that are ready to be worked on right now, including one that's almost completely finished being written and should also be released by the end of January. I mean, hopefully. With my luck, this video will be 3 hours long and come in fucking August. The other January videos specifically will be different from the ones that I usually do, but if I'm really gonna lean hard into making music content, then the video I'm making right now is essentially the music YouTuber baptism. And also with a lot of the scripts that I'm working on right now, I plan on sort of broadening my scope in terms of the videos I'm comfortable working on. Like I said earlier, I have this sort of compulsion to make videos that no one else would ever make, and while that is fun, it is also sort of limiting, and there isn't really an audience for those videos. So the kinds of things that I'm looking into right now are still obscurities, but they're obscurities that are related to things that more people would be interested in looking into. You're still gonna get a couple whack topics from me, don't worry, but I'm gonna, in general, broaden my scope to things that are a layer above that, just more generally obscure or underexplored, rather than pits of madness. But with that being said, that's all the things that I did in 2023, and that's all the vague things I'm allowed to tell you about what I'm gonna do in 2024. And like I said in the beginning of the video, 2024 is a special year for this channel specifically because it's the 10th year anniversary. And also, like I said, I really did not plan any way of celebrating that. So what I did is I hastily announced a Q&A where fans could ask questions and I could answer them for a little bit. With streams being kinda low, I wasn't really interacting with my audience too much, so I felt that this was a nice way of leading us into the next decade of Bronze Show. So without further ado, this is the Bronze Show 10-year anniversary Q&A segment. For those who skipped to the end of the video to see a question be answered, hello, welcome to the show. First question, what's your favorite video you've ever made, and what's your least favorite? My favorite video changes a lot. It's mostly just whatever I've uploaded the most recently whenever someone asks me. I think the Trapped video is my magnum opus right now, and it should be. It took fucking half a year to make, so that's the ones I'm gonna go with. And least favorite video, I'm gonna have to narrow the scope of that, because most videos past like 2020, like earlier than that, I hate most of those. But I will say least favorite videos in recent memory, I'm gonna have to say some of the earlier Dankest Hits episodes. Because that was back when I really didn't have any idea what I was doing in terms of setting up a narrative in a documentary video. It was more just for the memes, which really isn't what I'm focusing on now. And speaking of my earlier videos, since when did you have a dream to be a YouTuber? Now this is a question fit for a 10-year anniversary. When I started taking content creation really seriously, I was the kind of kid that had the mindset of, if I just do what the people that I like watch do, then I'm going to be popular too, because I was deeply insecure. That's right, the weird kid started a YouTube channel because he didn't have friends. I'm breaking new ground there. Thankfully, I've sort of grown out of that mentality, and honestly, I don't really consider myself a YouTuber, because I see YouTuber as more of like a job description nowadays. Like when I think of the term YouTuber, I don't think of any of the content creators that I am inspired by. I think of Mr. Beast or Jacksepticeye, you know, the really major big business ones. And I just don't see myself becoming one of those. Not a question, but what's your favorite video from this year, and what idea are you most excited for next year? I mean, obviously favorite for this year would probably be the Trapped one, although arguably the Defiant one would be my favorite more, because that's essentially just the Trapped video, but fun instead of an endless pit of horror. And for next year, I honestly don't really plan the stuff that I'm gonna do in advance too far, but generally the video topics that I have planned are exciting to me because I like me and the things that my brain spit out. And more on the topic of favorites, what are your favorite videos to make? It's kind of hard to say which of the two types of videos that I make nowadays I like more, because I do like the shorter discovery-focused videos like the Geechee Guy or the SpongeBob Darts one. Those, like I said, are really fun to make, but it's also really fun to dig deep into research, to lay out a story in its entirety for you all, whether it be kind of short like The Last Goodnight or the monster that the Trapped video ended up becoming. So in conclusion, I don't know. I like the ones that have moving images. That's a technique that more people should use. Do you think the West has ignored the horrors of the Iran-Iraq war due to not having a major strategic ally in either country, leading to millions of deaths going unnoticed? Man, I just want to talk about Justin Bieber, dude. Who are your influences when it comes to making videos? That's also sort of a hard question to answer because, in truth, it's mostly just whatever creators I'm watching the most at any given time. Like, you can kind of tell. You can watch some of my videos and go, oh, he's been watching too much H-Bomber guy again. But yeah, to narrow it down right now, it's mostly the big music reviewing YouTubers like Todd in the Shadows or Mike the Snare, and it's some of the more long-form documentarian creators like Summoning Salt and obviously H-Bomber guy. So if you're wondering why I made a video on a Guinness World Record, then don't look at me, my dad told me to do it. And this last category might be a little out of left field, but I'm starting to take influence from creators that I like to call cozy tubers. I've been sort of getting into people like Planet Clue and Hazel, people who have more laid-back energies and are clearly very passionate about the topics that they're covering. I don't know if I would consider myself a very cozy personality. I guess that's not really for me to say, but I just enjoy the casualness of their presentation, and also their attempts to keep their positive attitudes even when talking about aspects of their stories that are just fuck. And also I bring them up because I think that more people should just watch Hazel. Like, she's an anime YouTuber, and I don't care about anime at all, but she's the only anime YouTuber that I watch. So go watch Hazel, even if you despise Japanese people. But yeah, just from like a general residue of the earlier mindset that I had when making content, I'm inspired by a lot of things. And this will probably be the final question of the evening. You've made a good number of documentary-style videos on artists this year. Would you say that you've changed your perspective on these famous or infamous figures in the creation of those videos, or did the videos confirm the perspective you had previously? Honestly, usually no, but sometimes. Like, I come into a video like that knowing the general perspective that people have about these artists, and the reason I make those videos in the way that I do is to try and see if that perspective is valid, and if so, or if not, give a more nuanced take on the whole situation. The most that changes about my opinions of the artists that I cover is when I don't really have an opinion at the start of making the video, but I learned to respect them a bit more by the end. Making like the Smash Mouth video or the last Goodnight video has made me like those artists more than if I just forgot they existed. But for like the Trapped video or the Defiant video or the Fun video, my opinions haven't really changed, they've just become more nuanced. Like, I was nostalgic for Fun just generally, but now I have solid opinions on most of what they've produced. And I knew that Trapped was a controversial figure, but now I know the ins and outs of just how much of a douchebag Chris Taylor Brown is. And I knew that just conceptually an anti-vax punk band was funny, but now I know a bit more about where those beliefs come from and why they would feel the need to collaborate with each other on a project like that. And if you consider things like that my opinion changing on the topic, then I guess that makes sense, but I think the criteria of that for me is more me being surprised at how my views of it has changed. And yeah, that's the end of the hastily put together, underwhelming 10th anniversary Q&A segment, and if I didn't get to your question, then that means I hate you, and you should take that as a personal insult. Alright, shut up for a second. Hi, this is me from the future, just letting you know that I am in fact an idiot and a bitch, because there was actually one question that I was supposed to answer, but I forgot to, so I'm adding it here. It feels kinda weird to single this one out, because it isn't like more important than the other questions, but it would just annoy me if I didn't put it in the video. Although, if you want to hear me single out the person who asked this question, then you should check out my podcast with them, called Degeneracy Live. The show isn't as cringy as that title would make it seem, although Drake has been on some weird message boards, and honestly we're all kinda concerned for his mental health. What's a commentary video you wanted to get around to before retiring the genre that you never did? So yeah, for those unaware, I did do commentary videos for a couple of years back there before I started doing retrospective music content. I still think that some of the videos back then were kinda good, but those were also the channel's dark ages. I don't really have a commentary brain anymore, but I guess the two trends that people have gone towards over the years have been just shitting out daily videos and getting billions of dollars, or looking back and documenting the full scope of an already infamous incident. There isn't really a lot of people in the middle right now who are doing what I used to do back then, but I guess I would lean more towards the latter, because that's essentially what I'm doing doing now. So I guess I would just be making retrospectives on YouTubers that I didn't like, which, to be fair, I did one of those this year. But then again, I was also a worse person when I was a commentary YouTuber, so probably both to make and to watch, those would be hell. So anyways, yeah, that was the question that I forgot to answer, and that adds to the point that I was talking about over there. I could have added your question back into the video at any point, and I chose not to. You should think about your life choices. But yeah, after that, that's it for the 2023 New Year's Bronze Show video. In conclusion, I really enjoyed all the stuff that I made this year. I wouldn't consider any of it a disappointment, and I'm very excited for you guys to see the kinds of things that I want to talk about in 2024. But with all that being said, that's the end of this video. So if you would Bronze Show, then consider liking this video, and if you would Bronze Show, then maybe even subscribe on your way out. And be sure to ring that bell for notifications and follow me on Twitter, on Tumblr, on Blue Sky, on Mastodon, on Discord, on the street to my house